Alaikum, everyone. I greet you all with the greetings of peace, and I pray that you're all keeping well and healthy and safe. I know it's been a long year and a half, I would say, but hopefully it'll be over soon. It's actually an honor to be here amongst all the distinguished speakers at this event, and I've loved hearing everyone speak so far, and I've learned some new things. So, as our MC said, my name is Rania Lawendy. I was actually born and raised in this beautiful country. And being a visible gendered minority growing up, I grew up in Ontario in a small city in Waterloo. And, I hate to say it, but I could speak until tomorrow about the experiences I had with various forms of discrimination from the time I was in public school to university and even later while employed. Um, even walking down the street, I was always ready, unfortunately, for microaggressions all the way to full on assault. So I have been assaulted in the street before, and we'll talk a little bit about what our sisters and brothers and sisters are going through in Canada. I can't count the endless times I was told to go back to my own country, which is interesting since this is my country and where I was born, or surprised that I spoke English, like perfect English, all the way to the assumption I was uneducated because I wore hijab. And interestingly, that was in a fourth year class in university. So it was pretty interesting. And interestingly, Muslims are the largest minority in Canada and the most educated of those minorities. So, it's always been my hope that I've had 5 children, and I had always hoped that they would never have to experience the discrimination I experienced growing up, and I know I've even had it better than most. So um, I have made it a mission to be a social justice advocate, and it's one of the reasons actually I joined our organization in my early 20s. So, like you said, I'm currently the principal of Mac Maple Grove School, and I am. I do believe, like our esteemed speaker right before me, that education is the key, and it's not just about curriculum. So I'm very passionate about social justice, very passionate about the issue of race and really educating our kids and students all across. And I do actually help in the public system also with equity, especially for Muslim kids in the public system. I also advocate for students, obviously, as the Muslim chaplain at the University of Waterloo. And like he said, I'm one of MAC's National Executive Council members, so I'm able to really affect the education of kids across the country. So I want to actually begin by introducing MAC, because many of you may not be aware of the organization. So it's the abbreviation for the Muslim Association of Canada. And we are the largest Muslim organization in Canada. MAC is an independent, nonpartisan, domestic charitable organization. And our organization is really devoted to educational programs, social programs, charitable programs, and we are faith-based, really doing a lot of nonprofit work. So MAC is a national coast-to-coast grassroots organization, and I think this makes us a bit different than other organizations. And, as Muslims, one of the tenets of our faith, and that's taught to us by our beloved Prophet, peace be upon him, is to treat everyone fairly, irrespective of race, socioeconomic class, gender, etc., devoid of any discrimination, and to help really create a society that stands firm in justice. And so this is the individual's responsibility as well as the collective societal responsibility. And Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, during his last sermon, he actually said something really he did say many beautiful things, but one thing I do want to highlight is that he felt that he was not going to be there for very long. He wasn't well. And he even said that this would be my last sermon. And he reiterated the need for the acceptance of people of all denominations, which is interesting because, he came to the Arabs as a people. And he said, no Arab has any superiority over a non-Arab, nor a non-Arab have any superiority over an Arab. And also a white has no superiority over a black, nor a black has any superiority over white, except by piety and good action. And so, the teachings in Islam are that all of this doesn't make a difference. What makes a difference is how pious you are, like how you submit to God, and the good actions that you do. And this is obviously a major tenet of our religion, and what we promote across our work across Canada. As this large, grassroots organization, it's a privilege, and we have the privilege of also being a voice for the voiceless. And there's discrimination across all fronts, and we're able to bring about these issues that are important to the community in general, but more importantly, the Muslim community, to the forefront of the Canadian discourse. So we serve actually over 100,000 people annually. We have chapters in 13 cities. We have 18 centers and mosques. And we obviously believe that education is the key. Like I was saying, we have 28 schools across Canada. We're very lucky to employ over 1,000 people. We have actually over 2,500 full-time students and over 10,000 part-time students in our schools. And we really hope that this is, not just we hope, but we know that this will build a better, stronger Canada. So as we know, in Canada, we haven't been immune to all forms of discrimination, and in particular, unfortunately, racial discrimination, as highlighted by all the speakers before me. And, Canada, unfortunately, has a history, like many of us talked about, of racial discrimination against our brothers and sisters, the Indigenous, the Blacks, Asians, people of color, visible minorities, Jews, and of course, Muslims, which is what I'll be highlighting. In recent months, we've seen an increased attention to Islamophobic and unfortunately racially motivated attacks on Canadian Muslims. And it's, so surprising, even after the horrific cold-blooded murders. We all know of the 6 innocent Muslims in a Quebec City mosque. So the brutal killing, for instance, of Mohammed Aslam Zafis outside the International Muslim Organization Mosque obviously has led to renewed calls for changes to be made in Canadian society. We're seeing a growing anti-Muslim harassment and physical violence against Muslims, women in particular, especially in Edmonton, but not just in Edmonton. I myself have experienced it. Many students across campuses have been illegitimately harassed by CSIS, as discussed. I actually wrote an op-ed in the Toronto Star last year. And it's interesting because what's happening is our own government agencies, instead of putting resources where they should be putting them, they continue to use resources investing in surveilling level-headed, high-achieving, active religious Muslim students. And basically they're collecting intelligence by knocking on their doors. And this has actually caused a huge mental health issues, and it's affected their ability to practice their faith without fear of being labeled as a threat or as terrorists. And it's why it's one of the pieces I ended up writing, because I was seeing that with many of the students that I was dealing with. Also, in the midst of mass lockdown procedures, there's obviously been economic collapse overall and uncertainty. And we've even seen hateful people targeting and blaming Muslims for the spread of COVID-19, which seems ridiculous, but they've been on the attack. We have Mac's own masjid we had it happen in Cold Lake, but more recently Masjid Toronto, which is one of the major masjids in the downtown core of Toronto. We've seen actually 6 major incidences at both its locations. So they have 2 locations in downtown Toronto since the start of the pandemic, including spray painting, racial slurs, and actually breaking glass. We saw even in Vancouver, where you guys are at, hijabi was punched repeatedly on transit. A Montreal family enduring racist confrontation at a park. In London, Ontario, women having racial slurs against them. Also in a store, Toronto women facing anti-Muslim tirade on the TTC, amongst others. I mean, I could go on, like I said, until tomorrow and probably further to that. And most recently in Edmonton, obviously, we saw the 3 hijabi women who were attacked verbally and physically. And it's sad that we have to highlight all of these things that are happening in our beloved country. And so, we are asking and hoping that this message gets out, that we have to do more to eliminate racial discrimination. And our government really needs to take an active strategy to ensure that structural and systemic racism and discrimination in all its forms are removed from their policies and practices of their institutions that actually serve, they exist to serve and protect Canadians. And we as an organization are obviously committed to continue to elevate the discourse and rally for the rights of our citizens to live in a society where racial discrimination is eliminated and hopefully Islamophobia is eradicated. I know recently the government rendered January 29th an official day, and we are appreciative of that. But like we've said, that's not enough, right? And so we really need to work really hard at all levels of government and all levels of society, starting with the education in our public systems, but also within our laws and our institutions, and making sure that we will not tolerate any type of systemic or structural racism towards any group, to be honest. It's honestly been an honor for me to be part of this distinguished panel. And we as an organization, as MAC, we look forward to working towards this very important cause and really doing whatever we can to propel this cause forward in addressing systemic racism and of course, all forms of racial discrimination. Like I said before, we're a grassroots organization, and we believe that all of us have an individual responsibility collectively, because we are all one voice and we all have to work together, all the organizations together and all of us together as citizens who care, to make a better Canada and a better society for everyone, where they can feel safe and at peace and really be able to have that voice and live the life that they want to live. I want to end actually with one of the sayings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And he said that the parable of the believers and their affection and mercy and compassion for each other is that of a body. So if you imagine all of us as one body, when any limb aches, the whole body reacts with sleeplessness and fever, and it's busy with its treatment. So when any one person, and what that really means is when any one person is harmed or afflicted, or their agency taken away, or attacked, or any of these things, all of us should ache, and all of us should, whether we're part of that minority group or not. It is our duty as citizens, and speaking to the Muslims, it's our duty as Muslims to stand up for what's right, to stand up for justice, and to fight, to make sure and to advocate for those who may not have a voice or may not be able to advocate for themselves. And the Muslim Association of Canada is definitely committed to the treatment of this affliction. Thank you very much.